Thank you
yours.
very much. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So, as you already know now, my name is Chief Petty Officer Dodger Long, and I work for the Submarine Recruitment and Attraction. And I'm not here for recruitment purposes. I can promise you that. Right. What I'm going to want to do is give you an insight to what life in the submarine service is like and how submarines operate, and hopefully be able to answer some nagging questions that you might have about life as a submariner. Well, I've been a submariner now for 35 years, and I've got just over 4,000 sea days. To put that into perspective, 3,650 days is 10 physical years at sea. So I'm on about the 12 or 13 year mark of days at sea. So as you can imagine, I'm more than likely have been to some weird and wonderful places. Well, I've been as far north as the North Pole, as far south as the Southern Ocean, as far east as Singapore, and as far west as San Diego, and lots of places in between. So if you give me 2 seconds, I'm going to bring up my presentation here. And then hopefully we can hit the ground running with this. Can the presentation be seen okay?
Yeah, I can see it, yeah.
Right then. So then, this is our first bit about the submarines then. So the UK have had submarines for more than 100 years. It was an Irishman called John Holland who designed and got the very first submarine built, and that submarine was called Holland 1. The submarine service, as you would know, has always had an element of secretive around it. And it is also the home of Britain's nuclear deterrent, which is known as CASD. CASD stands for the Continuous At-Sea Deterrent, or the official title for this is Operation Relentless. Now, this has been conducted for 54 years, and that means we as a nation have had a submarine at sea continuously for 54 years, never missing one day. So, a bit about the Vanguard class submarines. Vanguard class submarines are 16,500 tons. They're 150 meters long and they're 11 meters wide. There are 4 of them in the class, and they are HMS Vanguard, Victorious, Vengeance, and Vigilant. The UK does have 2 other classes of submarines. These are the Trafalgar class submarines. These are the older ones that we have, and they're due to be paid out or paid off in the very near future. And we have the Astute class. The 5th one has just been launched and is joining the fleet up in Faslane very shortly. But these are known as fast attack submarines. So let's have a look inside our submarine then. So this is the inside. This is in the control room of the submarine. 2 seats that you can see in front of you. I'll see if we've got our left-hand seat here and the right-hand seat there. The left-hand seat is designed for the person sat there is to adjust the pitch of the submarine. So what we're trying to do is keep the submarine on a level keel at all times. The right-hand seat, he's got the more important, or he or she has got the more important job, and they are going to change our depth or change our course and maintain the depth and maintain the course that has been ordered. So that's just another view from the side, and you might be able to see here, that's called the yoke, where the helm is. So this next position, as I said, for ordered courses or ordered depth, this comes from this position here. This is called the ship control officer of the watches position. So the person who sits there, they will give the orders either to change depth, change course, change speed. But one of their more important jobs is also to alert the ship's company of any emergencies that we may have by sounding an alarm and bringing the whole ship's company to a higher state of readiness. Now, this area here, as you can see, this is a very large panel. Okay, this is called the SCC, Ship's Control Console, but it's more commonly known as the panel. So this area here, this allows us to raise and lower periscopes, operate and monitor our high pressure systems. So our HPR system, high pressure air, our hydraulic systems, but more importantly, it also is the position where we can dive and surface a submarine from this area here. This is all done here by the one operator who would sit in that seat there. Oh. Sorry, just. So, as you can imagine, if we have any type of emergency on board our submarine that we would all have to adhere to and hopefully keep the submarine safe. As submariners, we are all trained to a very high standard as firefighters. As you can see there, there's 3 fire extinguishers there, and this red box here, this is our breathing apparatus for our firefighters. This piece of equipment here is an SFU-90. It's a stored firefighting unit, and it's just a large foam firefighting capability that we can take to the scene of a fire as a first aid firefighting appliance. If the fire did escalate, as you can see here, we've got hose reels, more fire extinguishers, and more breathing apparatus down here. We'd always go to fight a fire in 3-man teams or 3-person teams. So that would be a firefighter, a water wall to protect the team, and the third person is what they call the team leader, and he would have a thermal imaging camera to be able to find the seat of a fire for us to be able to extinguish it. Now, this is my domain. This is sonar. Sonar stands for sound, navigation, and ranging. So it is the eyes and ears of the submarine. 2 main different types of sonar are active and passive sonar. Active is the one that you might have seen in an old war film where they send a ping out into the ocean and it will give a range and a direction of a contact. The downside to that is, as a submarine, we want to remain undetected, and that will enable another submarine or ship to be able to detect us. So we use passive sonar. Passive sonar is the art of listening into the sea. Every ship, submarine, even biological mammals make their own unique sounds. And it's my team's job then to distinguish what the sounds are. And if we've been tasked, this will say to hunt down another submarine, they will do it by using all the clues that are given to them from the sonar. Once we've decided that we've got the or detected this, the target, we can then pass that information through to here. This is called SMACS, the submarine's command system, and it's also known as fire control. So the lads and girls that sit at these desks, what they'll do is they'll carry out, we call it TMA, which is target motion analysis. Target motion analysis is basic trigonometry, trying to work out how far away a target is by the how fast it's moving through the water by the clues that are given from the sound room. If command then decide that we would need to attack the ship, the submarine, we can then use one of our heavyweight torpedoes. These are, as you can see, are spearfish torpedoes. They're 2 tons in weight and will travel in the area of about 60 knots. To put that into land speed, around about 70 miles an hour. So the same speed as you would travel down the motorway. Now, obviously, we don't always work or fight in fires, yeah, so we need somewhere to sleep. So here's our bunk spaces. As you can see, this is a 9-person bunk space. When I first started, there wasn't even enough bunks for everyone to have their own bunk, so we used to have to hot bunk, which meant when someone got out of the bunk, I could get into it, and vice versa. So the routine that we work when we're on the submarine is 6 hours on, 6 hours off, 7 days a week. If you are going to be going traveling around the world, yeah, these here are your lockers. So there's not a great deal of space to take very much equipment with you. And this is the Junior 8's mess, the dining hall, yeah, where we can socialize. As you can see, there's 2 TVs in here. One of them is always set up for videos, and the other one is always set up for a PlayStation or an Xbox or that type of thing. And at the end of the other end of the Junior 8's mess, there's a hatch there, and that there is the Junior 8 serving hatch. So this is our galley. There's a crew of approximately 150 men and women on board a Vanguard class submarine, and they will put out 4 meals a day. So that's breakfast, lunch, evening meal, and then at midnight they put another meal on, because as I said to you, we are working or someone always working 24 hours a day. So this galley is not much bigger than the average kitchen in the average home, and they make 600 meals a day in there. So moving on to the heads and bathrooms. So these are the Junior 8's heads and bathrooms. As you can see, there's 3 heads in there and 6 sinks to be shared between approximately 70 men and women. And we have the showers there. And you might have heard that submariners don't shower. We do shower, but we have a very, very strict regime of showering. So a shower is to last no more than 30 seconds. So when you get up in the morning, you might go for your shower, run the water, and then stand in there for about 5 or 10 minutes, singing your favorite song. On board your submarine, you get in there, you turn the water on, you turn it off. You clean yourself, turn it back on again, get rid of the bubbles and turn it off. And that's as long as the shower is allowed to last. If you don't do that, you will be invited to this area here. Now, these are called brabies, and this is how we make our water. As you would know, a submarine is surrounded by salt water, which is no good for us to drink or shower in. So what we do is boil off that water, leaving the brine behind, so the salt behind, and taking the steam away, which is clean water. We will then condense it back into a liquid form, which we can then use to drink, shower, or cook our food. But most importantly is that it's used there to maintain the reactor, because we have a nuclear reactor on board. So this is the area where that piece of equipment is. It's called the lower level. Down here, the temperatures can get up into the region of about 70 degrees. So the lads and girls that work here, they can't work a 6 hours on, 6 hours off routine, because it's just too hot for them to work down there. So they'll work either 3 or 4 hours down there at any one time. Excuse me. And as I mentioned before, we have a nuclear reactor. The nuclear reactor is operated from this area here. This is called the MCD, the main control desk. And at the back here, we have all the electrical distribution systems to allow the submarine to carry on and be operated at a safe manner at any time. So let's just go through a few things that I went through there and what we talked about. So the physical size of our submarine, as I said to you, a Vanguard class submarine is ginormous. It's 16,500 tons. Yeah, the average car at home is about a ton. you know, a small family car is about 10. So 16,500 of them. We went through where the steering positions are and the ship control, how we can dive the submarine and surface the submarine safely, and where the periscopes can be put up and down. Then into my domain, sensors, sonar. And I know we've got radar there. We didn't really cover much about or anything about radar, but the weapon systems. So it's talking about sonar and the importance of the sonar being the eyes and ears of the submarine, being able to investigate any contact that is in our area and distinguish it from if it's a ship to a submarine to a fishing vessel, even to if it's a whale or a dolphin. Maneuvering room is the area that we've looked at where we operate our nuclear reactor from, and our fresh water, how we get it, where we get it from. Yeah, we manufacture it ourselves from the ocean. Ladies and gents, thank you very much for that. I'm now more than willing to take any questions that you have on anything that I've covered, or anything that you might think I could know about in reference to life as a submariner. As I said, I've been doing it for 35 years, so I've seen quite a few things. Thank you very much.
So I think you might have mentioned this briefly, but like, what is your role on the subs?
I'm a chief ops sonar, so I'm in charge of the sonar department. So the sonar department, as I said, you know, eyes and ears of the submarine, and I'm the command advisor to the captain. So the captain or command, as per se, will ask for my advice about any contact that we could have of interest.
Oh, thank you very much. I've got a question. What was the most dangerous submarine?
The most dangerous submarine. The most dangerous thing that happened to me on a submarine, I don't know if that would be down the same avenue, is that I once got washed over the side when I was in the South Atlantic. I was on my safety harness and a big wave came, and as you would know, there's no handrails when a submarine's at sea, and the wave caught me, washed me over the side, and thank God my safety harness didn't give up the ghost, because I'm quite sure I wouldn't be here talking to you about it now.
Wow. Yeah, it does always look perilous in the movies when you're standing on the side and such. It's like cool. So this one is a bit of history about submarines. So in World War II, submarines' role was to destroy convoys and warships with ambushes and such. What's the role of a submarine in today's maybe?
Well, the biggest thing, as I mentioned at the beginning, is CASD, which is the continuous at-sea deterrent. Yeah, Britain's nuclear deterrent. We've been carrying it out now for 54 years, but also we do a lot of work with things like special forces, and we've been involved in recent conflicts like Libya, Kosovo, Afghanistan, because we do carry Tomahawk land attack missiles, which enable us to be part of a fighting force that way.
Thank you very much. So why have recent or newer submarines turned to nuclear energy?
Well, nuclear energy is a very clean energy. The only time it's the controversial side of it is at the end of its lifetime, and it's getting rid of the waste of it. But when it's up and running, it's clean. It's very, very clean. And the longevity of it, a nuclear reactor will last 25 to 30 years. It's not the environmental impact that a diesel engine has of being running and all that waste.
Yeah, definitely. What crafts have you served on?
Well, I've always been on what we call SSN. There's the two types: is SSN, which is ship submersible nuclear, which are the fast attack submarines. My last submarine was HMS Scepter, and I served on most of the S-class ones, which don't exist anymore. And I was also on HMS Astute when that was in build, which again is an SSN. And then you have also SSBNs, which is ship submersible ballistic nuclear, which are the Vanguard class, the Trident submarines. And I've never served on one of them, but my last job prior to this was I was teaching young submariners all about those submarines.
So you might be an expert on this question then. How long does it take to train to go on submarines, and what's involved in the training?
Right, there's not a definitive answer to this, because I do get asked this quite a lot, because it's all dependent on the branch you go into, but give it a broad brushstroke. Everyone who joins the Navy as a rating, they will go to HMS Raleigh in Tor Point and do 10-week phase 1. Once you pass out from phase 1, that's when the differences come. There's between 12 to 32 weeks, depending on your branch of preference. So 12-week course would be something like a logistics stores accountant, 32 weeks engineering, marine engineering, weapon engineering. Once those courses are completed, they will then go back to Faslane on the west coast of Scotland and conduct 10 weeks SMQ. SMQ is submarine qualification. It's a 10-week classroom-based course. So that's SMQ, what we call SMQ dry. Then you move on to do SMERAS, which is Submarine Escape and Rescue System, which is another week. And then at that point, you would hope that you would join your first submarine. If you sail at that point, you know, literally join the boat and sailed, you would hope to be qualified for your dolphins, which is these here, in about 10 to 12 weeks. And that's at that point is when you would become a fully qualified submariner. But generally speaking, most people, young lads, young girls who join, they're looking at from joining to achieving their dolphins around about the year to 18 months.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. How long do you usually spend underwater?
Well, again, as I said, I was teaching about submarines prior to this job, and we got that question asked quite a lot. The real answer is of a sensitive nature, so I can't tell you that. But what we do say to people is be prepared to be away for in excess of 100 days. So if you're away for more than 100 days, we've just had a submarine come back after 406 days, I think it was, or 405 days. The class of that submarine is not restricted, but that's been away for over a year. But that's not a year under the sea. They were like different ports and that. So hence that's where there's not so much of a tight noose on the sensitivity of the duration that they were away.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, and that's sort of answers. There's a similar question, like how long do you spend like offshore, just like away?
Yeah.
Away. So,
generally speaking, you'll do one big trip a year.
Perfect. What's the best place you've seen on your travels?
Oh, I would have to say Bermuda. I've been very lucky. I've been there 3 times. Been to Bermuda, loved it there. But I think the most obscure place I've been to is South Georgia. That's as far south as I've ever been. And if anyone knows their recent history, it's where the Argentinians invaded to start the Falklands War in 1982. So if you've never heard of it, look up that. And South Georgia really, really interesting place.
We have a controversial one here, maybe. What country has the strongest navy?
Us, obviously.
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah. I would say in the 21st century, more than likely it would have to be the US. You know, it's
sheer numbers, yeah.
pure numbers, and they have the money to maintain their navy, where there's other countries who might have got as big a navy, but they don't put the money into their defense.
Perfect. Are you allowed to communicate with family when you're away?
Very good question again. So depending on the trip that you're doing, it's if you're away on, we'll say, on a CASD, the continuous at sea deterrent, on one of their trips in excess of 100 days, you cannot communicate home, but they can communicate to you. And I think they get something like 50 words that they can send once a week. There can't be any very good news and there can't be any very bad news. And these are policed to make sure that all the rules are adhered to. If you're on an SSN, which, as I said, I was on, sometimes, depending on the trip, we can communicate both ways. We can send emails home and receive emails. But if command or the government deem it necessary, they will stop our communications. And a really good example was when there was the 7/7 bombings in London. We had no communications coming on board or going off the submarine, purely because the fact is they didn't know if anyone on board, if their friends or family have been involved in that. So when they have these rules for it, it's not through badness, it's to protect us until they know categorically that no one had anyone involved in such an attack. Then they'll give us the news after that. It's to protect us.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be quite traumatic to be stuck there and not
well,
able to do anything.
Yeah, if you know about it, and say for argument's sake, you came from London, you know, it might not be your next of kin, or it might be, you know, someone that you went to school with that had been injured, or God forbid, you know, had been killed in the attack, and it wouldn't come up in any check that you had any, you know, that any of your family were injured in it.
Yeah, definitely. What is the smallest submarine?
Oh no, there's an American X-Craft, I think it's called, and that has a crew of about 8 people.
Very small. Better like those 8 people. Yeah. Have you ever seen the nuclear reactors in a submarine?
Yes, I have. Every now and then, not so much at my stage of my career, but when you're in your younger part of the of your career, they'll go down there and they'll say the nuclear reactor needs cleaning, or the reactor compartment needs cleaning, and you go down there and clean it, and you have to wear a white suit and white hat and everything. It's like cleaning an operating theatre, but it's not like you would think, you know, with glowing stuff or anything like that. It looks like a giant wedding cake because it's all cladded and you don't actually get to see the you know, the nuclear part of it.
Oh wow. I find that really interesting, actually. Where do you keep the submarines, and like when they're not being used, and where do they get, like, I think that says decontaminated.
So they're over in Faslane on the west coast of Scotland. That is it's soon to be Britain's only submarine base. All submarines will be based in Scotland, over in Faslane, and it's going to be the centre of excellence for everything submarine orientated. So the submarine school will move there. All engineering, weapon engineering will all move to Faslane. And then there's some of the old submarines waiting to be dismantled. Some of them are in Rosyth, and the majority of them are in Plymouth in Devonport. So they're just waiting now to be cut up and put into storage, into deep storage.
Yeah. Well, if any of you ever come up to our training centre in Scotland, you can see the old submarines from the window of our kitchen. And they're really quite cool. I've wanted to go on them forever, but you're not allowed. What is the next question? So many. How expensive are submarines to make?
Oh, I think they're around about the £1 billion mark. So yeah, they're not cheap.
Yeah, no,
but you do get your value for money out of them, because they last 30+ years.
Is the HMS Beagle still around?
HMS Beagle? No, not as far as I know. No.
So I think you answered that earlier, but like, is it just, do you get the Dolphins badge at the end of just the training?
Yeah, so as soon as as I said to you, you'll do your SMQ dry. It's 10 weeks in the classroom. Once you qualify at that part of it, you'll then join your first submarine, and everything that you learnt in the classroom, you then put into practice on the submarine. Most submarines have about 32 different systems that you have to know every valve, nut and bolt about, so you can trace it from one end of the submarine to the other end of the submarine. Once you can do all of that and explain to people how that works, you'll do walk arounds around the submarine, and they'll go, what's that? Pass that part of it, then you'll sit down and do an oral board, and that is people just sat there with you, firing questions at you for as long as until you run out of answers. And once you can get all that done, you then qualify for your Dolphins. And in the old way, and still a lot of people do it now, is you get a glass of rum with your Dolphins in the bottom of it. You drink the rum and catch the Dolphins in your teeth, and that's you as a fully qualified submariner. But you don't have to take the drink if you don't want to.
Bless. What subjects would be best to study at school if you were looking to be a submariner?
Right, so engineering, if you want to go down the engineering avenue, maths and physics are always very good. If you want to become an officer, then obviously an engineering officer, then it's a degree in engineering. But the majority of jobs that we have in the Navy, you don't need any formal qualifications at all. So you just do your aptitude test, and depending on what score that you get will depend on what branches are available to you. So
just for the people on, I'll add a question. Can you tell us a little bit more about the aptitude test? What kind of subjects does that involve?
It's it's a brand new one, and I've not seen the new one, but it will be things like maths, English, mechanical reasoning, and that type of thing. But you can look them up online, and if you go onto the Royal Navy website, there's actually a practice one on there, so you can have a look to see how the test works.
Excellent. Yeah, that would definitely be something that would be worth looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. How do you moor a submarine?
Exactly the same way as we do a ship. So it would be, we come alongside, we have fenders there because of obviously the shape of a submarine. It's more bulbous under the water. You can liken a submarine to an iceberg. What you see of an iceberg is only the top third of it. The other 2/3 are under the water. but exactly the same as tying a ship up alongside. So forward and after springs and head and stern ropes, and then hurricane hawsers at either end.
Fantastic. What is the most dangerous accident that could happen on a submarine?
Ooh,
quite a lot, to be fair.
yeah. I mean, you could let your imagination run wild with it, but we have a department within the Royal Navy called FOSS, which is Flag Officer Sea Training, and FOSS's motto is train hard to fight easy. And I just think that's never a better saying. To train hard is to fight easy. And we train so much that we minimize the risk of any accident happening. Accidents will always happen. It's an unfortunate reality in life. But what we do is we pride ourselves on being the most professional submariners in the world. We've not lost a submarine since, I think, the 1960s. So we do have an absolutely fantastic safety record.
Yeah, perfect. That's good news. Which, if any, our recruits are more suitable for submariner life than? Is there something that would make you unsuitable, or?
Well, people, when I talk to people, they go, "Oh, I couldn't do it. I'm claustrophobic." A submarine is a lot bigger than what people think. It's having the mentality to be able to get on with people, and you can't get on with everyone all the time. So, I mean, when you're a little kid and you're in the playground at school, you fall out with your friend, and you're there. I'm never speaking to him ever again. And the next playtime, you're back being best friends again. And that's really the mentality that you have to be a submariner. To certainly, if you understand what I'm meaning, as in you think I'm not going to bother speaking, but you just don't speak to that person until you can calm yourself down, give yourself a little bit of space away from them, which can be difficult on a submarine, as you would understand. But we're really quite fickle submariners, and we're there, and we forgive very, very easily, which you have to. You've got to be thick-skinned, and you've also, if you're going to give people grief, you've got to expect to take grief as well. But there isn't a special type of person, but you've just got to be a very understanding person.
Sounds like qualities that we should all aspire to, I think. So, are you allowed a phone or another device on a sub?
No. When you go to work on the submarine in the day, when the submarine's not at sea, you're not allowed to take your telephone with you, because there's so much equipment of a sensitive nature down there, and smartphones being smartphones now, you can take photographs and record anything you want. So they don't allow people to take their phones on board in the day. But when the submarine sails, you can then you're then allowed to take it away with you, because obviously a lot of people store their, I don't know, photographs of their friends and family on it, and their music, and maybe audio books and all this type of stuff. So you're allowed to take it then, but the use of them is very, very stringent. So if command will tell you when you can and can't use it, but the majority of the time is you're too far away from land to be able to use your phone anyway.
Yeah. What medical support do you have on board?
So again, depending on the trip you do, we normally take a doctor with us, who's a qualified surgeon as well as a full medical staff, which will be one medical senior rate, one leading hand and two ABs. So they've got a full medical department, and they can carry out operations if needed on board. But generally what they would try to do, if someone was taken that badly ill, they would get into an area where we could helo transfer them off.
Sounds a bit vague, but it's talking about an explosion or thing. What emergency procedures is there?
Sorry, what was that? Sorry.
It asks what would happen if a submarine exploded or imploded, I would imagine. Is there
I mean,
rescue?
We are trained for submarine escape. The preferred method of escape nowadays, from when I joined up, is to, by hook by crook, is get the submarine to the surface and do surface abandonment. If not, there's a piece of equipment called the NSRS, which is a NATO submarine rescue system, and that's like an Uber for submarines. It would come out and pick people up and take them back off again. And if push comes to shove, we're trained to do submarine escapes, which I think the world record was down to about 180 meters. That it's been, so 600 feet there or thereabouts. But when we did our training back when I was a youngster, we trained at 100 feet, but we no longer do that type of training. But we do that type of training, but we don't do it under pressure. So it's not pressurized training anymore.
Thank you very much. How many days leave do you get? And there's another sort of question, like, what's the range of salaries?
Right, so the days leave, we get 38 days leave a year, which generally speaking is 2 weeks Easter, 3 weeks summer, 2 weeks at Christmas. So that's generally how and that's incumbent of what they call again, bank holidays. If you're on a seagoing submarine, yeah, you'll get an extra day for every month that you're on that submarine. So if you get your 38 days leave and you're on the submarine for a year, you could end up with 50 days leave that year, or forever. And that doesn't mean, when I say you're on the submarine, you're being at sea, as long as you're part of that ship's company, that submarine ship's company, you will get that extra day every month. Salary, off the top of my head, it starts at around about £20,000 going up to leading hand level, which is your first good promotion, to about 33,000.
Perfect, thank you for that. So this one asks, do you see wildlife on a sub?
Yeah. Well, when I was in the Pacific Ocean, I had I think it was a blue whale, giant thing anyway, come up right next to the submarine. When I was in South Georgia, I've got photographs of me with an elephant seal. In the Falklands, loads and loads of penguins, and we used to watch them just darting around in the sea. Or where in the Bahamas, I went swimming with sharks. South Africa, obviously baboons were down there, and great white sharks. So yeah, very, very lucky for that aspect.
Cool. Yeah, you must see amazing things. So someone's asking a bit more about becoming a Submariner writer.
Yep.
They said they've seen a job on their website and thought that it was suited to them.
Yeah.
Do you have any more information about it, or what's involved?
Well, basically, being a writer is HR, it's human resources, dealing with the sailors' pay, dealing with their leave, their travel, making sure that all their reports are up to date. If you're on board a submarine, you would then they have what they call a patrol report, which is basically the captain's diary of everything that happens over that period of time while the submarine's away. You would be responsible for making sure that that diary is kept up to date for the captain. I've had friends, a girl that I knew, she was part of the assistants to the Princess Royal as and another lad, he worked at 10 Downing Street. So there's lots and lots of opportunities as writers for serving anywhere realistically. So, you know, the world's your oyster with that one. It will give you a really good insight to, you know, because every job that we have in the Navy now has a civilian accreditation to it. So I think for my job, ours is something like cybersecurity or something like that, that, you know, the qualification we get. But for writers, it will be down the avenue of personal assistant and that type of thing. So very good job. If you want, as you can see above my head there, you've got the Royal Navy. But if you look on that side, if you look on the Royal Navy websites, they put in there what you're interested in, and there's lots and lots of information about every job. And if you struggle with that, try your local AVCO, Armed Forces Careers Office. But the best place is the websites.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So is there scope to cater for dietary requirements such as celiac disease or?
To a certain extent there is, as in, like, if people are vegetarians, yes. Anything more than that, as in, like, for being a vegan, I've never known a vegan on a submarine, because as you can imagine, the only limitation that we have for a submarine at sea is food. We make our own water and we make our own air. So the limitation is the amount of food that we can take. And to then put in there that to take, for argument's sake, vegan sausages rather than vegetarian sausages. I'm just you know, I'm not trying to be difficult with this, but there isn't the storage space on board on a submarine.
So like gluten-free wouldn't be
I wouldn't have thought so. Again, you know, I think that would be a really difficult one to deal with. But again, I'm not a doctor, so I can't really comment on medical issues. But I would have thought it would be a really difficult one to deal with.
Oh, thank you very much. What is Procedure Alpha?
Procedure Alpha, oh, got me. I can't think, and I do know I can't think. Leave it with me, I'll think about it in a minute.
Okay. So this one's quite sad. What happens if a family member or something passes away while you're away offshore?
Well, unfortunately, it happened to me. My grandmother passed away when I was away at sea. This is a long time ago, and that information was kept from me. And it really was pure, as I said before, it's to protect you, because there's no the Navy can't get me home. I was out in the middle of the ocean, so there was no physical way of getting me back. It wasn't, I mean, my grandmother had passed away, so she wasn't going to get better. And the trip I was on, we were going to San Diego, and we arrived in San Diego, and my wife had flown out to meet us, and I was asking her how the family were, and I said, "How's my nan?" And she just looked at me, and at the time we were doing a BBC documentary, and I had to push the TV camera, and I said, "How's my nan?" And she said, "Oh, unfortunately, she died 2 weeks ago." And so when I was starting my grieving process, all my family were getting over their grieving process. So it is a very difficult way of living your life, but it is a reality of life as a submariner, that, you know, these things do happen. And when you've been away for a long time, there's sometimes, you know, you'll get called to the captain's cabin, and the inevitability is you're either going there to get good news or bad news.
Yeah. So. A tough life. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got one about like television. Are you able to access things like that, or is it all just like what you downloaded? Or
unfortunately not. We take box sets of DVDs and or now download as much as you possibly can, and people swap it amongst themselves and watch it on their iPads and all that type of stuff. But no, we do get the daily news coming in again, which is edited for us, and football results. But when you get football results, you normally get one of the communicators that will mess around with the scores. So you might have, I don't know, Torquay United v Man United, and Torquay United beat Man United 10-0. Which never in the reign of man is it ever going to happen, but they mess about with things like that, which makes your life at sea a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Imagine spending all those months thinking your favorite team had won.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
To come out and be like, oh no. Yeah. So this one's about joining the Navy as an officer. So you would get a degree in the subject that you'd want to do, also like engineering.
That's the preferred way of doing it. You can.
Is there something like military? Like, is there a military sort of degree, or?
But you could also, what you can do is get the Navy to pay you through university to do your degree. So, say for instance, you want to do marine engineering, you could go into an engineering degree as an undergraduate for the Royal Navy, and they will pay you to go to whichever university you require. So, for instance, in Scotland, or further education or university education is free. But if you so wished, and you're in Scotland, you could apply to go to a university in England and get it paid for. So it's not going to be that cliche of running up your student debt. You'll get paid through university, and also you will get paid as well, and also guaranteed. I think it's a 5-year job at the end of it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
So that's really, if you're thinking about that, again, look on the Royal Navy website, and it will tell you more about the undergraduate scheme that they've got on there, and it's absolutely second to none. So rather than running up a bill, you're actually earning money to go and get put through university.
No, that is perfect. I think that's what everyone struggles with at university, isn't it? It's not for a job or whatever. So
I mean,
being paid to study is a
further education in Scotland's free. Is I mean, I've got a son who's is at university in Aberdeen now, and they still have to pay.
Yeah. No, definitely. It does come with quite a cost, regardless of all of that. So I think that is all of our questions just now, unless there's any last minute questions that people want to pop in. Good show of questions though, guys. Some of them were
excellent.
Really excellent, yeah. Really interesting. Oh, Procedure Alpha.
Still can't remember. Got me.
Oh no.
35 years on this. So someone got me. Someone threw the curveball.
Oh no. Well, I'll tell you what, if he does remember, he can email me and I'll pass on the answer.
Yeah.
If there isn't any further questions, give me a minute. So there's one about the sort of dangers of nuclear. Right,
there's no the as you might be able to tell from my accent, I come from the West Country. I come from Devon, and just on the edge of Dartmoor, which is a very, very high concentration of granite, like up here in Aberdeen. As you know, it's called the Granite City. The background radiation is higher on Dartmoor and in Aberdeen than it is on a nuclear powered submarine. It's so well cladded and protected. So
yeah, is there, so like the actual operation machinery, all of that is like is safe to use? It's not
oh yeah.
Cool. How would you deal with it if it did go wrong? Is that,
well, I mean, again, it goes down to the training that the engineers have. It's that they're constantly tested on the procedures for, if it's like, if when a reactor turns itself off, it's called a scram, which is the safety control rod axeman. That's what scram stands for. Yeah. So, but when it turns itself off, they can't just turn around and turn it back on again. There has to be an investigation to what the reasoning for the submarines, the nuclear reactor switching itself off for. So in case it is something bad. So they'll do an investigation. They'll say, oh, it switched itself off because it had, I don't know, a power spike or something like that. And they go, oh, that's fine. We can turn it back on again. So the safety procedures there are immense.
yeah, no, I can imagine. Yeah. And yeah, there'll be like procedures and drills and on all of that.
Yeah.
Sure that.
And there's a backup to the backup of the backup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. No, that's perfect. Well, thank you so much, Dusher, for joining us
Not
this
a
evening,
problem.
answering all our questions.
I hope everyone enjoyed it as much as I did. So yeah, that was really good. Thank you all very much for inviting me.